There's a gig app that pays disturbingly well. Stay away from it at all costs. You won't find the app in any of the app stores, and even a Google search doesn't turn up results. To download it, you need to scan the QR referral code of someone who's already using the app. That feature makes it feel like you're joining an exclusive club. If a friend offers to let you scan their code, under no circumstances should you take them up on it. That friend is as good as dead to you. Trust me when I say from experience, this isn't a club you want to be a member of. Whatever you do not download it. I was at the bar with my buddy Matt when he convinced me to download the app. We're both broke with a ton of student loans, so aside from the occasional $2 pint night at our local dive, drinking anything other than store-bought booze was a rarity for us. But Matt had said a celebration was in order and that he was paying, which was enough to get me off of my couch for happy hour. He milked the situation, refusing to tell me exactly what we were celebrating until we were a few beers in. Sick of waiting for an explanation, I guessed it was a new job, and Matt gave a mischievous grin. "It's way better than that," he said. "It's an app called TskTask." I rolled my eyes. We'd both tried every gig app out there. When I'd get sick of switching between Uber and Lyft and washing sorority girls' puke out of the back seat of my car, I'd drive for DoorDash for a few weeks until the smell of fast food started to make me nauseous. After that, I'd hustle for gigs on Fiverr or pick up odd jobs on TaskRabbit. Then the cycle would start over again. Most days, my circumstances felt inescapable. The last thing I needed was another app to slowly chip away at my sanity as I struggled to cobble together enough cash to cover rent and utilities. I told Matt as much. "Screw those other apps," Matt said. "This is the easiest money I've ever made." I have to admit I was intrigued. Matt never gets excited about anything, so part of me wanted to see what had turned him into a diehard so fast. The other part of me was gullible enough to believe there might actually be such a thing as easy money that didn't involve the lottery or an inheritance. It didn't take much badgering from Matt before I scanned his code and clicked the link. The link took me to a nondescript website with nothing but a download button. Seconds later, the app was on my phone. The app itself was bare bones, like Venmo, but with even fewer frills. Nothing but a few tabs, one for my own QR referral should I want to pass it along, one for linking my bank account, and one showing my current balance of $0. In the middle of the otherwise mostly blank screen were the words, "You have no new tasks." Before I could accuse Matt of tricking me into downloading malware, he cut me off. "I know what you're thinking, but just wait for a task," he said. I was sketched out too after Rachel referred me. The fact that Rachel was using it eased my concerns. Rachel's this girl Matt hooks up with on occasion. I'd only met her a few times at Matt's, but from what I could tell, she didn't seem like the type of person to get into anything that wasn't legit. Aside from the fact that she went to film school, so she has even more debt than we do, with fewer employable skills to show for it. "When you say the easiest money you've ever made," I asked, trailing off. "I've already made $800 since downloading it yesterday, and that's not counting the referral fee you just got me." "I hope they paid you well to rope me into your weird pyramid scheme," I joked. "Yeah, they did." Matt held up his own app to show me $1,000 had just been deposited into his account. "Jesus, is that for real?" "The money transfers, if that's what you're asking. If this ends up being a scam, at least I know how much our friendship is worth to you." "Oh, they way overpaid then," he said. He laughed and flagged down the bartender for another round. We moved on to chatting about movie trailers and how there was barely anything coming out that we wanted to see. I'd almost forgotten about the app altogether when my phone buzzed 20 minutes later with my first task. I read it and reread it, mystified and more than a little creeped out by the words on the screen. "Piss on the bathroom floor. You have 5 minutes to complete the task." "Dude, you made it seem like I'd be less sketched out when I got my first task," I said. "Is this a joke? What kind of sick person created this?" Matt read my task and snorted. "Yeah, that's a weird one. but $100 is $100. I looked at my phone again. Sure enough, the app was offering me $100 for the task. Below that, a timer was counting down, already at 4:27. There's no way I'm doing that for $100. So wait for one that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, Matt said. Or what? Piss on the floor that someone's going to have to clean? You know how many guys are going to end up doing that tonight anyway. At least you'd get paid for it. It's a dick move. People are dicks all the time. Have you gotten one like this? The first one I got was knocking over a display stand at Publix. And you did it? For $50? Hell yeah, I did. It was no big deal. I apologized and went on with my day. How are you not more creeped out by this whole thing? How does it even know where we are or that you've completed the task? The same way every app does, by spying on you, using location sharing to see who you're with. I mean, how does Instagram know to show me ads for tampons every time I hang out with you? You're an asshole. Matt shrugged. Who is even paying for this? Like it doesn't make sense. All the other gig apps are connecting workers with clients and taking a cut. There's no upside to this for anyone but the people who do the tasks. My money's on Zuck or some other billionaire. Think about it. They're bored of all the luck stuff. They've got more money than anyone could spend in a lifetime. What else are they going to use it for but to laugh at all the dumb shit people will do if you pay them? Yeah, I'm not really interested in being part of someone's messed up social experiment. I checked my phone again. The timer was down to a little over 2 minutes. I scanned the app for a decline button, but didn't see one. How do I decline the task? I asked. No clue. I haven't declined one. Since there wasn't an option to decline, I decided to test the app. If someone wanted to mess with me, I'd mess with them right back. I went to the bathroom but didn't do anything. Just waited a minute, washed my hands and returned to the bar. I checked my phone just as the timer ran out. A frowny face appeared on screen, then the app went black. Matt's phone buzzed a few seconds later. He checked it and laughed. What? Did you get a task? What is it? Matt smirked at me before holding out his phone for me to read. I barely had time to register the words, "slap your friend," before I felt Matt's hand connect with my face. The smack jolted me off balance, and I jumped up to keep from falling over. What the fuck? I could feel everyone staring at us. I couldn't tell if my cheek was burning from the slap or the embarrassment. Matt held up his hands in apology. I'm sorry, dude, but $200 was too good to pass up. Having seen the exchange, the bartender made his way over with an annoyed look. I think that's enough for you two, the bartender said. All good, Matt replied. We'll just close out. The bartender shook his head and went to the register to ring Matt up. Matt's phone buzzed again as the bartender returned with the check. Matt checked it and winced. Then he took a big swig of beer and spit it like a fountain all over the bartender. The bartender turned red as security stormed over and grabbed Matt by the back of his shirt, dragging him towards the door. Sorry, Matt said. It was just a joke. Hope it was funny, 'cause you're 86th. Sign the tab and tip him good, Matt called back to me as security shoved him outside. I picked up the pen to sign the tab when my phone buzzed on the bar top. I saw the alert from TskTask and told myself not to check it, but my curiosity got the better of me. I clicked it. The task read, "Do not leave a tip. Write FUCKYOU instead." Every alarm bell in my head was going off. This went well beyond location sharing and listening in on conversations. I looked around the bar, sure I'd find someone in here watching us, pulling the strings to see how far we could be pushed. But I didn't see anyone who didn't seem to be here for a normal bar outing. And the way everyone was side-eyeing me like I was an exhibit in a freak show suggested they were not in on whatever was happening. I looked back at my phone. $250 to write "fuck you" instead of leaving a tip. I felt my face flush with shame as I wrote the words, but I had to know if this was for real or not. I was positive I'd walk outside to find Matt had been screwing with me, somehow faking the alerts. I turned the receipt face down and scurried out before anyone could read what I'd written. By the time I stepped outside, the app was alerting me that I was now $250 richer. In the midst of so many emotions and my desire to get away, at the time it didn't cross my mind that out of all the sketchy aspects of the app, I just encountered the biggest red flag of all. That slap from Matt wasn't a random task, it was a warning. Not following orders had consequences. Matt wanted to go somewhere else and keep celebrating our good luck, as he called it, but once the adrenaline faded, I felt hungover and on edge, so I went home. The whole thing felt wrong on multiple levels, so I decided not to go on the app for a while. Still, I needed some proof that the whole thing wasn't a hoax, so I transferred the money to my bank, and sure enough, it showed up. As easy as the money had been, I had a knot in my stomach about it, though I struggled to articulate why. Part of it was being watched, all the unanswered questions about who was behind the app and why anyone would create it. But I think something about it also felt manipulative. Like I was just a puppet in some messed up game I didn't understand. But I can't deny I had felt an immediate rush along with whatever pang of guilt came from stiffing the bartender, like the app had tapped into some impulse I hadn't even known was there. Did I want to do that? Had the app made me take the smallest step towards some darkness lurking inside of me? I accepted some rideshare requests, hoping to distract myself, but even those reminded me how I was trapped driving, having leased a car to be able to drive for the apps, and now needing to accept a certain number of rides to make my payments each month. It wasn't even midnight before I found myself shampooing the floor mats in the back seat after some drunk kid puked on the ride home from a bar. Screw this, I thought. I opened TskTask and waited. No tasks showed up. I refreshed the app, but still nothing. I figured they just didn't have the bandwidth to monitor the app 24/7, but looking back, again, I think it was conditioning me to want more tasks. Like the app was negging me, making me feel unworthy so I'd be grateful when it paid attention to me again. It wasn't until the next day that a new task showed up. I won't bore you with all the details of the tasks I accepted over the next few days to chip away at my debt, except to say that they seem mostly mundane, if pretty dickish. At first they were basic, things like spitting gum where someone's guaranteed to step in it, bumping into a kid with ice cream so they drop it, ringing someone's doorbell in the middle of the night and ditching. I realize now that they were escalating, though I barely noticed at the time. 72 hours after refusing to piss on a bathroom floor, I was doing things like taking a package off a neighbor's porch and tossing it in the dumpster and calling a random number to leave a message telling someone their sister had died. Robert Cialdini wrote this book, Influence, that I read a while back. In it, he talks about the psychological tactic enemy soldiers used to turn patriotic American POWs against their own country. See, no true patriot will immediately talk crap about their homeland, but if you can get them to admit that the US isn't perfect, it's a slippery slope. Something in the mind makes you double down on things you said in the past. So once they'd admitted the US wasn't perfect, they were willing to talk about the flaws in more detail. With a bit of patience, the enemy soldiers would have American POWs publicly denouncing American values altogether. They never even noticed the concessions they were making until it was too late to turn back. Like those soldiers, I didn't fully recognize that I was leaping across lines I never would have crossed before Matt introduced me to the app. The first time I truly had a chance to recognize how far I'd strayed arrived about a week after I accepted the first task. I hadn't gone back to my other gig apps since the vomit incident. I made way too much accepting tasks for what felt like far less effort. But for whatever reason, I still don't like to think of myself as a gig worker. Yes, I take gigs, but knowing I might need something on my resume, I occasionally work part-time for a company doing data entry. It's already mind-numbing work for a little above minimum wage, but returning to it this time was downright painful. Up to this point, I had had to leave the app open in the background for it to assign me tasks, but halfway through the morning, my phone lit up with a notification, even though I was pretty sure I had closed the app and my phone was on focus mode. The funny thing is, I had been wishing for something to break the monotony of the work, and here it was, my desire fulfilled. Email, redacted folder name, to redacted email address. You have 90 seconds to complete the task. My pulse quickened as I read the notification. On the one hand, I knew it was wrong and probably illegal. On the other hand, as far as I had been told, the company did not deal in sensitive information that would interest the public. The bulk of the data I even had access to was mundane user analytics the company sold to advertisers. I quickly rationalized the task, though I suspected it would likely be the end of my working there. I'd already decided to do it before I even registered that it paid a whopping $2,000, by far the most I'd been offered for any task up to that point. It took all of 30 seconds before the money was on its way to my bank account. I got a huge hit of adrenaline, something I'd started to crave lately. My head buzzing, I focused as much as I could until lunch. Upon my return, I wasn't remotely fazed to learn my supervisor wanted to see me in her office. She was shockingly nice about the entire thing. She did not immediately fire me, though she was well within her right to. Instead, she gave me a chance to explain myself. A look of confusion came over her when I declined, and she politely let me go. Like I said, I had been told, by her specifically, that we did not deal in particularly sensitive information, so the way she handled the whole thing tracked. But when I looked back one final time, I saw something on her face that made me think otherwise. Dread. She looked terrified. The next day, I understood why when I saw on the news that the company was shuttering its doors after a data breach. The pang of guilt I felt over potentially costing a lot of people their jobs was quickly replaced by a fear of the possible repercussions. I wondered if I would be thrown under the bus in the company's attempts to cover their tail. As if it could read my mind, my phone lit up with a notification informing me I'd received a $5,000 employee loyalty bonus. The familiar mix of elation at the huge payday and not inducing chills from being involved in something so strange crept in, and I managed to shake off any remorse I felt. I fell into the now routine act of rationalizing away what I had done. Whereas before I had told myself no one was really getting hurt by my actions, this time I focused on the fact that clearly the company had been doing something shady, or else a seemingly innocuous folder wouldn't have been enough to bring them down. Fuck them for doing something that put me in this position in the first place, I thought. It wasn't the first time I had gotten angry that week. Getting angry anytime guilt or shame started to creep in over a task had become a pattern for me. Like a lot of you reading this, I did what I was supposed to do. I went to college. I studied something useful, but the jobs in what I studied were mostly in bigger cities, far away from family circumstances that required me to be close to home. And even if I could have moved, the entry-level pay wouldn't have covered the cost of living before I took my loans into account. It didn't matter what I did or where I went, life was shaping up to be one big hamster wheel. Everywhere around me, I heard folks complaining about how hard it was to find good workers who care about the job, who are loyal. Well, what did they think was going to happen when they filled our heads with dreams of cushy office jobs and home ownership, loaded us up on debt, and then offered us one fucking way to pay it off, by staring at a register or a screen doing absolute bullshit for $15 an hour, if we're lucky, for 10 to 12 hours a day? We were sold a bill of goods. The American dream is dead and gone, but the older generations are still doling out advice based on their experience of a steady paycheck and a reasonable mortgage. And on the flip side, every time we open a fucking app, some rich influencer is saying that if we follow our passion, we'll find more freedom and success than we ever thought possible. But both sides are speaking from a place of having already found success, and every single one of them is positive. The only thing that factors into that success is good old hard work. So of course most of us end up juggling multiple gigs, trapped in the hustle economy. At least that way we have some semblance of control over our lives. Sure, we have crippling student loans that our best hope of paying off is the government stepping in to forgive, and yeah, buying even an outhouse is a pipe dream, but at least we get to clock in and clock out as we want, quit when we get bored, give rides or deliver food, YOLO what little we have into crypto, or curate our own social feeds on the off chance fortune might rain down on us and lift us out of the endless grind. I'm not proud of how little I hesitated accepting these tasks. It legitimately felt like, for the first time, I had a way out of the rat race. So what if I had to be a dick to do it? Jeff Bezos wouldn't even let his employees take a proper bathroom break, and look where he ended up. Not long after I thought I had perfected the art of justifying my actions, I got the task that finally changed my mind. The day before I downloaded the app, I had made plans for the following weekend with a woman I'd matched with on Hinge. I'd been anxious about the date when I committed to it, worried we'd be limited to the cheapest margaritas I could afford, along with complimentary chips and salsa. Telling my dates I'd had a late lunch and wasn't hungry enough for dinner had become my go-to move on the dating scene. But that night was different, because I could finally afford to go somewhere nice. I texted her back to let her know we were still on and told her where to meet me. We met up at a spot local foodies love and hit it off immediately. When I say it was the best date I've ever been on, I'm not exaggerating. We bonded over the things we had in common, laughed our asses off, ribbing each other about the things we disagreed on, and kept the tapas and fancy cocktails flowing for 2 hours before things went south. When my date announced she needed to use the restroom, I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. As she was walking away, I checked the task I'd just been assigned. Tell the woman in red to hurry up and get it over with. I looked around the restaurant and saw a woman in a red coat sitting alone a few tables over. She was lost in thought, running a finger around the rim of her martini glass. I checked my phone again and frowned in confusion. Get what over with? I didn't consider the question for long enough. I had gotten greedy. I happily ignored all the details about the woman that might have stopped me from going over there. It didn't seem like it could possibly be that big a deal, but the payout alone should have been enough of a red flag. If I'd received $7,000 in total to destroy a company, how innocent could a task worth $10,000 have been? I got up and walked over. I was already speaking before the woman even realized I was there. "Hurry up and get it over with," I said. I registered shock on her face as my words sunk in, but she didn't say a word. I didn't say anything else, just returned to my seat. "What was that about?" my date asked, having seen the exchange as she came back from the bathroom. "Oh, nothing," I said, staring at my phone expectantly. "Don't worry about it." I grinned as my phone alerted me that I was $10,000 richer. "What should we order next?" But my date wasn't looking at me. She was staring in horror as the woman in red left the restaurant in tears. We didn't have a view of the street outside, but we could clearly hear the screech of tires and the screams of patrons close enough to the window to see the woman in red walk into oncoming traffic. My date didn't look at me again until she was giving the police her statement. By the time the cops had quit asking me questions about what I said to the woman in red and decided I wasn't involved in her death, my date was long gone. That was the last straw. This time I couldn't rationalize away the guilt and shame. This app was evil. There was no more pretending that wasn't the case. Whether there were flesh and blood employees behind it or some sinister presence, I didn't know. But the evil nature of it was undeniable. I went home and deleted the app. I sent Matt a string of texts asking him what he'd gotten me into. I called him several times, but each time it went straight to voicemail. I wished my roommates weren't out of town, as I was desperate to talk to someone, anyone, about what had happened. Instead, I could only smoke and drink myself into an oblivion as I waited for a reply from Matt, finally falling asleep around 4 a.m. I woke at 9 a.m. to frantic banging on the door. It was Matt, eyes bloodshot with dark crescent moons carved into his lower lids. Before I could lay into him, he had pushed his way inside and started closing the blinds. "I fucked up, man," he said. "I fucking fucked up. I shouldn't have gotten you involved." "No shit, dude. I had to delete the app." "You can't delete it." "What?" "It keeps coming back. You have to get rid of your phone. And even then, I'm not sure." I checked my phone, and sure enough, it was front and center. I deleted it again and watched it disappear, but when I scrolled to my next screen, it had already reappeared. "What the fuck is this thing, Matt?" He didn't answer, his face catatonic now. That's when I finally noticed he had blood on his shirt. "What happened? Where's that blood from?" He sat on the floor and hugged his knees as he started rocking in place. "I fucked up. I fucking fucked up. They're dead. They're dead. They're dead. He just kept repeating the words over and over like a broken record, making my skin crawl. Who's dead? All of them. Because I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do what? I couldn't do it. I tried, but I couldn't. Whatever it is, we'll go to the police and get it straightened out. We'll tell them about the app, I said. We can't go to them. They'll blame me. For what? Just tell me what happened. You don't get it, he snapped. We can't. They're listening. They know what we're doing. Okay, I said, trying to calm him down. All right, why don't you take a shower and get cleaned up? Then you can tell me what happened and we'll figure out what to do. Shortly after I got him in the shower, someone knocked on the door. By the time I looked out the window, a delivery truck was driving away. I cracked the door and saw a small box on the front step. I picked it up and shook it. Whatever was inside thudded around. I locked the door behind me and carried the box to the kitchen. Is someone here? Matt called from the shower. Just Amazon. All good. I cut open the box and stared in confusion. Inside was a revolver. My phone buzzed. An alert from TskTask. My hand shook as I checked it. Matt's services are no longer needed. Terminate his employment. You have 5 minutes to complete the task. A wave of nausea hit me. I thought about calling 911, but I realized Matt might be right. I had no idea what to tell them. There's an evil app that wants me to murder my friend? Good luck with that. I decided to call Rachel. She was the only other person I knew of who was involved with this thing. Maybe she'd have some information or know what to do. I started to ask Matt if he could recall her number when I remembered he'd texted us both when we all went to a party together a few months back. I searched through my texts and found the chat. Rachel picked up almost immediately. Hello? Rachel. It's Matt's friend, Spencer. I kept my voice down and went to my room. Something happened. I don't even know where to start. Where's Matt? He's here, in the shower. I think they want me to. Not over the phone. I'm close by. I'll be right over. I hung up and noticed the shower had stopped. I walked back out to the living room to find Matt, still wet, but now dressed in the clothes I'd left for him. His back was turned, but I could see the empty box next to him on the floor. What's the task? He asked. Matt, I wasn't going to. He turned and aimed the gun at me. I'm serious. I wasn't. I would never. Just put down the gun and let's talk. Shut the fuck up and let me think. With his free hand, he clutched his head, his face scrunching up as he held back a sob. He took a deep breath and let it out. I'm sorry, man. He gripped the gun tighter, his finger moved to the trigger. A car door slammed outside and got his attention. He hesitated as he turned to look. I jumped in his direction and tackled him. The gun skidded across the floor. He thrashed at me as I held him down. Stop, I said. I'm not trying to hurt you. The fight went out of him, and he quit struggling. I'm going to stand up now, I told him. Are you going to be calm? He nodded. I stood and moved to the window, peering through the blinds to see Rachel walking up the front steps. It's just Rachel, I told him. The three of us are going to figure this out together. Okay? Matt didn't say anything, but he sat up. I unlocked the door and had it halfway open when a sickening realization hit me. Rachel had never been to my place before, and I didn't give her my address. I was already slamming the door when she raised her own gun and fired. Relief washed over me as I realized she'd missed. I dropped to the floor, reached up, and deadbolted the door. I turned around and pressed my back against the wall, but from this angle I could see that she hadn't missed after all. Matt's lifeless eyes stared at me from the carpet, blood pooling around the hole in his head. Steady, methodical thumping came from the door, the sound of Rachel kicking at it. I scrambled to grab the revolver from where it had skidded across the floor when I tackled Matt. I aimed it at the door and yelled out, "Please don't make me shoot you, Rachel. Just leave." "I can't," she called back, her voice cracking. "They have my sister. I gave them." I told her. She couldn't finish the sentence. Bullets peppered the door around the lock. She kicked it again, the frames splintering. I pulled the trigger, hoping a warning shot would scare her off. Click. Nothing. I pulled the trigger again. Click. Nothing. They'd sent me an unloaded gun, a twisted test that I'd apparently failed. I ran to the garage and climbed in my car. I had no idea where Rachel was, but I wasn't waiting around to find out. I pushed the garage door button. The door hummed as it rose slowly. Rachel's boots appeared just outside. I didn't hesitate. I turned the ignition and shifted into drive. I slammed on the gas, bursting through the door and catching Rachel off guard. Her upper body slammed into the hood of the car, even as she fired the gun at me through the windshield. Unable to see with bits of garage door blocking my view, I swerved across the lawn and plowed into the mailbox, sandwiching Rachel's body against it. Tears burned my eyes as I climbed out of the car and crawled towards Rachel's body. Neighbors had emerged from their homes. If they'd been disturbed by the gunshots, they'd hidden behind closed doors. Now that the threat seemed neutralized, they exited to witness the gruesome aftermath. I leaned over Rachel's dying body. "I'm sorry," I cried. "I didn't want to." Her mouth flapped uselessly as she tried to speak. I moved closer to hear what she was saying. "My sister. They said they'd let her quit if I... Please help her." "Who are they?" I asked. But Rachel was gone. I noticed blood dripping onto the lawn near Rachel's arm. I looked down to see I'd caught a bullet in the shoulder. I heard sirens as I passed out next to her body. I awoke in the hospital to find an officer sitting with me. I tried to sit up. "Stay down," she said. "You were hurt pretty bad, but you're going to be okay. Your parents have been notified and they're on the way." It wasn't... I had no idea where to begin. "You don't have to say anything. You're not in any trouble. The neighbors' reports made it pretty clear it was self-defense. The two deceased turned out to be some pretty big drug dealers and you got caught in the crossfire. But you're lucky. Things could have been a lot worse for you." "That's not what happened," I said. She looked at me for a while, taking me in. Then she said, "You're not thinking straight. Get some rest and we can chat later if you still want to." The cop stood up and walked out of the room. I noticed a phone on the table between my bed and the chair she'd been sitting in. "Hey, you left your phone," I called out. She turned back and shook her head as she held up a cell. "Mine's right here. I'm pretty sure that's yours." The phone buzzed on the table, giving me instant chills. A single notification lit up the screen. "You have a new task.